The 1400s and 1500s, Northern Europe. While Italy was painting angels, the North painted nightmares. This is the story of the Northern Renaissance, but it's not the story you learned in school. While Italian masters were celebrating human perfection and divine beauty, artists in Flanders, Germany, and the Netherlands were surrounded by death. The Black Death had killed 1/3 of Europe. Entire villages wiped out overnight. Bodies piled in streets. Mass graves that never filled. The plague returned every few years. Nobody knew why. Nobody knew when it would stop. The Inquisition was burning heretics alive. If you said the wrong thing, thought the wrong thing, painted the wrong thing, you burned. Artists watched their neighbors dragged to stakes. They heard the screams. They smelled the smoke. Fear was everywhere. Wars ravaged the land. The 100 Years' War, religious conflicts, peasant revolts crushed in blood. Armies marched through towns, burning everything. Soldiers raped, pillaged, murdered. There was no safety, no peace. And then there was the bread. Rye was the staple crop of Northern Europe. But when it rained too much, when conditions were right, the rye became poisoned. Ergot, a fungus that grows on rye. When people ate contaminated bread, it didn't just make them sick. It made them hallucinate. They called it St. Anthony's fire because it felt like your limbs were burning from the inside. But the physical pain was nothing compared to what it did to your mind. Ergot poisoning causes vivid, terrifying hallucinations, paranoia, seizures, a feeling that demons are crawling under your skin, visions of hell opening before your eyes. And it was everywhere in Northern Europe. Entire villages would eat poisoned bread and descend into mass psychosis. Hieronymus Bosch, born in Bosch, Netherlands, around 1450. He lived through plague outbreaks. He witnessed public executions. He survived religious persecution. And there's a theory that he regularly consumed ergot-contaminated bread. Those creatures in his paintings, the bird-headed demons, the monsters with human faces, the nightmarish amalgamations of flesh and machinery. What if he was painting what he actually saw? What if those weren't symbols and allegories, but hallucinations burned into his brain by poisoned rye? Peter Bruegel the Elder. He painted peasants dancing while war raged around them. He painted death as a skeleton army slaughtering everyone. He painted hell as a place that looked familiar because he was painting the world he lived in. Matthias Grünewald. His crucifixion is the most horrifying ever painted. Christ's body isn't noble or serene. It's rotting, covered in sores, twisted in agony, fingers clawing at nothing. Because Grünewald painted in a hospital. He watched people die of plague every single day. He knew what death looked like. So when you look at Northern Renaissance art, don't see it through museum glass. See it through their eyes. Eyes that watched friends burn at the stake. Eyes that saw children die of plague. Eyes that witnessed war, famine, madness. And sometimes, eyes that saw demons that weren't there. But here's what's extraordinary. They didn't just paint horror. They painted beauty in the horror, meaning in the madness, hope in the apocalypse. The Northern Renaissance, where beauty and nightmare lived on the same canvas, where genius and madness touched hands, where artists painted the world as it was, dark, and somehow still divine. Take a deep breath. What you're about to see was born from plague, war, persecution, and possibly poisoned bread. This is the Northern Renaissance. Let the darkness begin. You've just seen the Northern Renaissance, not the sanitized version, the real version, born from plague and persecution, painted by hands that trembled with fever, imagined by minds that saw demons. Real or hallucinated, we'll never know. But here's what we do know. They didn't paint to escape their world. They painted to understand it, to find meaning in meaningless death, to see beauty in apocalypse, to prove that even in darkness, humans can create light. Subscribe for more dark truths about art history.